Today's topic is about sticky forms or redisplaying the submission value submitted in a form by our user. A sticky form is a standard HTML form that remembers what values the end user typed into the form field. Redisplaying user-submitted values in a form is a customary feature now in forms. If you're requiring your user to resubmit a form after filling it out and the values they submitted are incorrect, you do not want them to have to retype the values again to our form. So the file that I have open is the register.php file. If I go in and preview this in Firefox, these are the input form fields that we want to make so that when I type in a value, it will remain there in case I've made an error in my form and I don't have to come back and retype this information into here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our at the form input fields. So here's our form in my register.php file. To preset what the user entered into a text input field, we will use the value attribute. So right here in my form fields, we have our first name, and here is our value attribute. This is the information that we're going to want to put into our value attribute. This presets what the user entered in a text input field. The HTML value attribute is used to set the text that appears in the input field by default. One of the things that we've done is we have used the same name for our form inputs to correspond with the columns in our database. So this name right here, first name, this corresponds to our database. So if I open up my database, open my start page, here's my users, here's my first name, my last name, my email. These are the same values that we're using in our registration form. This is also the data type that we're using and the length that we've assigned to these. So we've assigned the length of 20 characters, 40, 60, and 40 for our password. We've also set in this form field the maximum input length in the form field equal to the maximum column length in the database. You could have just made the size attribute the same value as the database data type length, but for stylistic purposes, it looks better setting the maximum input length. For the value, we want to echo out what's in that first name variable. This variable will only exist if we executed the code when the request method is post. If we're just displaying a blank form, the post variables will not be set. It is best not to refer to variables unless they exist. The if conditional statement, right here, the if conditional statement, will check that a variable is set before printing or outputting its value. We have added this check here in this code block to see if the variable is set. So if that variable exists, then we want to echo the value from it here in the input element to the screen. We want to make sure that we do the exact same thing in this piece of code for the rest of the input elements, setting the value attribute equal to what the visitors entered in that field. Note, if you have a field which is a text area, the HTML for text areas is a little different. Text areas do not have value attributes. Instead, a text area has an open and a closing tag. The default value is added as content in between the tags. Just like the other variables, this variable is set before we echo it. So here is my text area, and here is my name, message, ID, message, and then here is our conditional statement, and then we echo it out if it's been set. So let's take a look at this code in the browser. As each field loads, there's now code in place to check if it should have a value. So let's go ahead and out to Firefox. I'm just going to make an error, and I'm not going to put in my email address. And if I say register, So we can see that our values that the user inputted into our field were retained. All that we would need to do, the user would now need to do would be add their email address in. It gives you a little prompt here. So the very first time that we load the form into the browser, so if I click on here, the request method is not post. So the block of code, if I go back into Dreamweaver, this block of code is not executed starting from the if empty. The very first time it's loaded, it is using a get request. So all of this is skipped, and all that is shown to the browser is the form field.